Andy McGeady and Shane Keegan were on the pay-per-view. You can get your podcast there, wherever it is you get your podcasts, or offtheball.com/podcasts, probably the best place. And they were talking about the new 50-22 rule, which has been proposed law change in rugby. It's designed to promote attacking play. Have a look.
I think it's a really clever incentive.
Simple.
Yeah, because the GAA are in the midst now of trying to deal with new rules and the law of unintended consequences, and it is complicated.
Yep.
But this law just seems to incentivise to the right amount, the right extent, doesn't change the general nature of the game.
And you don't have to do it.
You don't have to do it.
If you want to drop anyone back, if you want to say, listen, we think your kicker's rubbish, that's fine too.
Yeah, you'll need a great kicker, you'll need a solid line out, so you've got to win your own line out, say it's 5-10 metres from the opposition try line, but there are teams against whom you just cannot give them lineouts 5-10 metres from the try line. So you'll have to leave men back, therefore more space, and you might see more running rugby as a consequence.
Potentially. And this is the thing, it's all about potential. Even if you make those defenders think you're shaping to do that, suddenly space has appeared. So it changes the scope of what could be in front of you.
Yeah, so it could change the scope. What's going to be in front of you, that's from the pay-per-view yesterday. Alan Quinlan is here. Do you like the way that they constantly evolve and change the rules in rugby? Is it a good thing?
Yeah, I think you need to evolve a little bit. The game, there's a real trend in, I know this 50-22 proposal is possibly more kicking, but it's more kicking with a view to trying to create a little bit of space in the front field. I listened to Toby Flood recently, and he's around a long time. He's playing for Newcastle now, the former England international, just saying that when he gets the ball at times now, he's just seen a wall of defenders coming at him. And so it may make the opposition, and Eddie O'Sullivan's spoken a lot about this, and he always had a good kicking strategy when I played under him, and a plan about, finding space in the backfield. Rog, who is probably the master at finding that space in backfield, throughout the years when I played with him for Munster and Ireland, was brilliant at that. So rugby does have to evolve, and sometimes there's trends and things happen. There's a few frustrating ones that annoy me at the moment. The maul is one of them. Where
how easy it is to take it down?
Yeah,
legally?
well, no, it changed in 2016 where they changed the law where the maul spins around, and if you don't break your bind, you can stay on the opposition side.
Yeah.
And what it's doing is it's enabling and allowing players to kind of block out the scrum half getting it back, or the guy at the back of the maul when he's holding on to the ball. If there's opposition jerseys around him, he's panicking a little bit, and it's not as clean and as clear cut. I think that's a complete mess. The referees are not really policing that, and we're seeing a lot of mauls just break down. And I know people might say mauling in rugby is a negative, but I think it's a real positive thing, and it's a real good attacking weapon that make the opposition stay in the maul. Because you could have two guys, you could have 4 or 5 guys against 8, and those 4 or 5 can break it up very quickly. It's another way that might keep those loose forwards or hang at the sides in the maul. I think it's very poorly managed that. But that 50-22 thing is a good idea, because hopefully it would take a few people into the backfield. And
Ronan O'Gara coming out of retirement to sit there in the backfield,
sit back like a quarterback in NFL and just be protected and not really kick a lot. The trend is kicking. I mentioned this throughout the last 6 weeks, and I was here a few times and in commentary that England kicked 42 times against France in Twickenham in round 2, and there's nobody left the stadium that day. None of the English journalists spoke about it being a negative, because they were all intelligent kicks, and Owen Farrell kicked a lot on the run and found green grass, and their contestables, they won them back, and they scored 7 or 8 tries. I can't remember exactly, but they got a significant big win against France, and it wasn't seen as a negative. So sometimes we view kicking as a real negative thing, but accurate, good kicking isn't bad as well in the game. And certainly the way the game is gone, there's Wales scored 10 tries in the championship and won a Grand Slam based on incredible defence. And going back to when we had our first defensive coach with Ireland, Mike Ford, for my first couple of years, obviously we had a plan defensively, but we didn't really have a system. And when he came in, that kind of was like, this is incredible. We have a system now, we have accountability. People there's a certain rules about what way you defend and staying connected to the inside and the outside. And nowadays it's just it's a strategy to stop the opposition, which is exactly what coaches should do, but it's creating a lot of these collisions and a lot of the, Dave McIntyre is going to kill me because, look, I'll be honest, I'm not going to steal one of his
Go for it.
ideas, but I'm going to give credit him with it, okay? So we're going to credit him. And he said it to me in the last, because we were together for 6 or 7 weeks, obviously doing games, and you see teams creeping up the side of rucks, and like so many times when you're in a commentary position, you're saying, that's offside, that's offside, that's offside. I'm not talking about Ireland here, teams playing against Ireland, I'm talking about all teams in the competition. And he said to me, well, if you bring back the law of the scrum half being able to throw a dummy, it stops that creeping up and it stops that sprinting off the line as well, because they've nearly got to take their time and slow down. Whereas nowadays the ball is at the back and they're literally in a 3-point start and they're just herring off the line and stopping the opposition. And he said to me, well, if they brought back the scrum half being able to throw a dummy, teams wouldn't be able to get off the line as quick, and then you might be able to see backlines playing a little bit more. I thought it was really good for a fellow who hasn't a clue.
It's obviously one of the main features of American football as well, isn't it? Like kind of a false start. I'm not sure it's the false start, the offensive or the defensive sign, but like that really benefits things as well. It allows kind of just a little bit more caution on the defensive side, which gives the quarterback just a little bit more time in some cases, which in rugby's sense will give the attacking team, the team with the ball, just that little bit of extra time, which could be huge and better for the game, I think.
Yeah, well, it's the collisions and the impacts and the ability to slow down the opposition. And it's ironic we're saying this after Ireland struggled a little bit on those fronts, that kind of pressure at the weekend. But I just think as a spectacle, there is a trend for kicking now, because sometimes you're playing into the opposition's hands, particularly if they have a lot of people on their feet and they allow you have the ball. Teams that dominate possession are not winning rugby matches anymore.
Yeah, especially when they're Ireland. Briefly, this week, it's the Heineken Champions Cup build-up. Not the best ever final round of games for the Irish provinces. Munster very stop-start, certainly very slow to get started at home at the weekend. Leinster beaten. Also were decent, I think it's fair to say, but they've significant injury problems, so not great from the Champions Cup.
No, and it's look, the only thing we're guaranteed is that there's going to be one Irish representative in the semi-finals. Hopefully it'll be 2. I think it's a very difficult trip for Munster to go to Edinburgh. They've John Barclay back and Bill Mata at number 8, Hamish Watson. They have a lot of good players, particularly in that forward pack, and Munster were poor. I think Johan van Graan, he kept Farrell on the bench, he kept Klein on the bench, and they made an impact when they came on. They changed things around. They were dreadful in the first half, Munster against Zebra. But look, they got a win, they got a bonus point win. I think in the bigger picture with Pro 14, it was so important that they got the bonus point win, with Glasgow winning as well and trying to get that home semi-final. Ulster, on the other hand, they've injuries for Dan McFarlane. So it was always going to be a daunting task, but these are different weeks, Ger. They're really exciting. It's European Cup week.
We'll get into that a little bit later on in the week. I did want to ask you about this. It's a report from Midi Olympique. We're getting well versed at reading the French rugby papers. Tony Lean tweeted, according to Monday's Midi Olympique, Ronan O'Gara is ready to sign up with a short-term contract with the French Rugby Federation for the World Cup as a defence coach. So that was tweeted last night at 9:21, and then we have an image of the paper too here. So that's just the front cover of it. But O'Gara prêt à signer. O'Gara ready to sign. 15 de France.
I think it'd be great for him. Particularly, again, it's. We're not sure how they go to World Cup, France, but
they could win it. I mean, that's madness.
They're crazy. It's crazy, French rugby. But I think it'd be a fantastic opportunity for him. And they're the reports all last week. I can't break any sort of protocol. He'll kill me. But obviously, Tony Lean, he writes for the Examiner, so Tony's getting some information there from Rog as well. So. Look, it's quite open in France now. Anyone you talk to in France, that they have made contact, and it's just whether they put a formal proposal together for him. But I think to bring someone like him in would be...
It wouldn't have any impact on the stuff in New Zealand, because obviously that's...
No, they'll finish. The Super Rugby finals are a little bit earlier this year, the kind of July 7th or 8th or something, so he'd be pretty free to come back and work with them over the summer and in their preparation. So
just 1 point, I know we're about to wrap here. It's an exciting prospect from Ronan O'Gara's point of view, because you've got someone like Entomac in there and you can kind of create a culture around a 10, and it's going to go in the right direction over the next couple of years. If only there was a situation in Ireland at the moment where we need a bit of fresh thinking perhaps at number 10.
Yeah, to have
is there a missed opportunity if we look across at France and they're getting the best out of Ronan O'Gara and we're thinking to ourselves,
I think his stock has risen so much in France, and that's coming from the players. There's a number of wrestling guys in that French squad, and Bernard Laporte would have spoken to them. It's like the move to New Zealand when they spoke to Dan Carter, and if Dan Carter endorses you, you know. So I think the French players are endorsing Rog, and that's only brilliant for his CV. But I've said it many times before, I'd love to see him be part of Andy Farrell's coaching ticket going forward, but that's up to Andy and what he's thinking, and obviously with Rog as well, what he wants to do, whether he wants to come back and or does he want to go back into French rugby. He still has an appetite to keep going, and you know, in his development, I've often said it to him, you know, one of these days he's going to have to make a decision, and the role with Ireland would be obviously assistant, so there's a little bit of less risk there. Taking a head coach role in France obviously is him stepping out into the taking the reins himself, but he seems to have a good knack of the timing of some of these things fall pretty right for him. But I think if he could go in with France, and if you can imagine if he did a short term, had a positive hit with them, there's every chance they'd go for him for a head coach, or for certainly a permanent involvement, because if France don't do well at this World Cup, I think Jack Brunel anyway, he's on borrowed time, so you'll see more change after the World Cup with them.
Good stuff, Quinny, thanks for that. You didn't manage to break anything there, but we all got it.
Yeah. Well, the point here is that he can't come back to me saying, well, you said this or you said that.
Yeah, no, Tony Lean said it.
Tony Lean said it, but look, it's out there. They have contacted him, and he is considering a situation. If there's something comes in paper on the table, I think it'd be a good move for them, to be sure.